Hello everybody, welcome back to our energy update here for the 25th of May till the 31st of May, week 22 for energetically sensitives and empaths. My name is Yona Brindis and thank you for tuning in. This is a live stream. I welcome you and please feel free to comment or ask questions. All right, what do we do in these energy updates here for energetically sensitives? We report about some of the weather conditions, the collective weather conditions that we've experienced in the last week. And because we as in, the community of empaths that tends to pick up on things prior to, like, say, the mainstream, we go through certain symptoms, certain emotions, and certain processes, maybe in our relationships or in our business, a little bit ahead of time. So usually like a week or two ahead of time. It's not that precise. So I usually start these energy updates with a little bit of a review, and of course there's some processes that take a little longer, that don't shift just because the week shifts. But there are some things such as full moons that we have noticed do affect people's energies, people's sentiments, and therefore we're looking at a week here next week with a full moon in it, and there's already a little bit of a build up, a little bit of a shift happening here. So last week we were talking about conscious choices, conscious decision-making process, and conscious correction. So the energies that were coming in from last week were quite corrective, and this will continue here this coming week. We will actually feel even something like a testing, like where things that we perceive maybe in the news, in what is happening around us, within our family. There's a big holiday weekend coming up here in the United States, so I reckon that many of you listeners will have some kind of social or family occasions, or even just hanging out with friends. But there will be things that will come to your attention that will shock you a little bit. So there's a surprise element that is coming into this correctional or correction phase, as I often call it. And so we have to brace ourselves a little bit. You see the barometer here on the left side of your screen that sort of subjectively measures how we perceive this. It's not an indicator for whether it's going to be a good or a bad week. It's an indicator for the intensity levels. And so as sort of mainstream, the collective is now more or less entering this correction phase that some of us have already gone through last week. There'll be, more of a revelation of a coming forward of truth. So truth is here the shocker. And for those of us who are aligned to truth, that is not really something that we need to be afraid of. We don't need to be afraid of collective energies altogether, because it's just like weather conditions, they just are. And all we can do is prepare ourselves maybe a little bit and help, through talking about it, help ourselves to contextualize what it is that we are experiencing. And so with these energy updates, you'll receive energy tips where I divide this into, sort of different areas of life. Okay, so we are looking here at a time that requires us to step up a bit, and that's sort of the main theme here for this next week. Some of you have already felt a shift here in the last days. There's a more masculine, a more action-oriented, a more physical energy coming in, and some of you actually feel this almost as disturbing. With sort of an electricity to it, with a vibration, with a strong sort of, you're feeling this, and like sort of buzzing going through you, maybe when you're meditating or when you're, just trying to relax. Okay, and so here it's important now that you don't interpret this as maybe something wrong with you, or you're about to have a stroke or whatever, but that you see this electricity, if you will, more as part of a general weather condition. I don't know about you guys. Empaths are usually very sensitive to weather conditions. I have a very, very strong sensitivity for thunderstorms. I can feel this, 2-3 hours ahead of time, through various symptoms in my body. I get a splitting headache. I feel this inner pressure and electricity building up, and as soon as I look up in the sky and I see the clouds and I see sort of what is going on here in the larger picture, it helps me to contextualize it, and so I can calm down and say, okay, I just gotta wait till till the thunderstorm actually comes, and then I'm gonna feel better. And that's exactly what happens. This is why I do these energy updates, because they help us to contextualize. So put this into account here when you look at this gauge, for collective energies, that it's measuring the intensity, okay? Not good or bad. There's no judgment in energies. Energies don't know, how people interpret this, or how they implement this, or how they deal with this. But this is exactly the problem that we're going to have here for this next week, namely dealing with it. Okay, so are we going to deal with it, or are we going to cope with it? And you know me, if you are a frequent listener, I talk a lot about sort of the different types of patterns that we develop to just be, okay, to just exist. And most of us, especially energetically sensitives, have a bit of a different view on things. And so we often feel like we're not belonging. We often feel like we're not wanted, or, we're not really understood. There's a lot of misunderstandings for us. And most of us, I think it's safe to say that, feel like they're a bit misplaced. Because the way we perceive the world, and even if it's just because we're perceiving things ahead of time, which doesn't really make us special, but it is something that connects us with different parts of ourselves, with a different core of ourselves. And so while many of us, especially the older generations like myself, perceived quite a bit of trauma through this in, growing up in the past, general times are shifting, and the group of people, the amount of people in our societies that are awakening to their energetic sensitivity, and with it often also with sort of their higher goals, their higher vibratory goals, is steadily increasing. And so this is all expanding, this is all opening up. And while I was doing these energy reports for like a very select few 5 or 6 years back, this is now something that I can do on YouTube without getting all the haters or the trolls telling me that it's total bullshit what I'm talking about. I still get those, but not sort of as in like sort of traumatizing or leading to me doubting myself. All right, so before we go on to the energy tips and how to deal with all of this, I want to take this moment here to greet you guys. Let me know where you guys are from. I'm starting to see you. What country are you listening from? And also feel free really to comment or to ask questions at any time. I do this live because I really enjoy the interaction with you, and oftentimes it allows me to go a little deeper into something where, sort of I would just kind of rush through. And there's one particular subject here that I want to cover today in the energy tips that I will add another video to it, because I've explained it in more detail about a year and a half ago. So yes, welcome everybody. Okay, so what does this mean here for the world? Okay, for in the world, in our societies, in the news, it probably means that we're gonna see a bunch of more revelations, shocking things that are being uncovered, things, about celebrities, scandals. It smells like scandals for me, in this next week. Also, there's of course, like a lot of energies, that are trying to disrupt or trying to like shift the paradigm. Okay, so I use disrupt and it sounds negative, but I actually mean this in a positive way. So these disruptor energies that we are perceiving here, which can trigger sort of the fear of collapse, the fear of the end of all things, all right? This apocalyptic or sort of something big is going to happen, which many of you are feeling for a long time. All this wants to come into manifestation. All this really wants to, be, manifested in the way that it's actually happening. And so it's only something that can drive you into fear or panic, when you don't really know what it is. So as soon as you will see these revelations that we are expecting here for all year, really, but things that make you question, your mindset, your beliefs, maybe the belief in your government or the belief in authorities. All these things will actually lead to this clarity, kind of like this feeling that I described after a thunderstorm. It's relief. Now you at least know what it was about. Okay, so don't be afraid of revelations, because thunderstorms, they clear the air and they produce an opportunity or a chance for you to correct and to because you're seeing things more clearly now, to be much more honed into what it truly is that you want to be, or that you want to manifest, as opposed to constantly being distracted by all the stuff that is going on outside. So my overall energy tip here for next week is to embrace that. And also, because I'm talking to empaths here, really trust in your intuition, guys. When it comes to, like, say, maybe earth changes, more volcanoes or earthquakes, or also traffic accidents and stuff like that, bad luck, if you will. It's very important that you fully trust in your inner guidance that tells you where to be at a certain place. So to be at the certain place at the right time, to say the right thing at the right time, to be with the right people at the right time, that is something that you can only feel coming from within your inner guidance. And this has to do with your alignment to your intuition. And the more you are aligned to this true vision of yourself, where you want to be in your life, not what you want to accomplish, not what your goals are. Because there's a huge difference between a goal and a vision of yourself. The vision of yourself is more based on the essence of yourself. And in this coming week here now, and throughout all June, really, you're going to be pulled into making concerted actions, while at the same time listening or trusting in your higher guidance. And those of you who are familiar with energy work know what this means. This means, another level of balance between your inner masculine and feminine energies, but also the traits that come with that, which is, the allowing on one hand, the allowing and the embracing, but also, the conscious decision, how you're going to deal with this, not going back into your old patterns, not going back into your past. And this will require you to be completely present. This next week, and we have a similar week like that in June, you need to be fully present. And let's talk about this here in the energy updates. Yes, and I can see you guys. Welcome to New York. Welcome to Washington, Chicago. Some of you, I know by name now, know where you guys are from. Let me know what country or what city you are from. It's wonderful to have you here. And thank you for the encouragement too. Yes, the more you're learning and going deeper into your energies, the smaller the circle of people is becoming. This is interesting. This is something that I didn't even have this here on my list, but I think this is very important to address. You know, this feeling of not belonging, exactly that I've mentioned in the beginning, or not feeling compatible with other people. You know, yes, you got it there, Aline. It's about this conscious choice. You know, is this actually really serving me? Is this moving me forward? Is this supporting me, strengthening me in my vision of myself? And I'm not talking about egoic or egotistical things. I'm talking about the true self in you, you know. And when you with people who have resistance towards who you truly are, like say, you know, being an empath, okay, and they just look at you and roll their eyes when you start talking about maybe some of the energetic sensations that you have, or things that are going through you, and they're just looking at you like, you know, then we get to this place where we, you know, yeah, you can feel offended, but is this really serving you? You know, is this serving you to feel offended? You can ask yourself that as well. In the energetic adjustment session from yesterday, where we sort of channel these energies that are coming in ahead of time, and already work with, you know, sort of the self-healing medicine that our system can bring in. There was a core question that arose here for this next month, for this next period of 4 to 6 weeks, and that was, is this really worth it for me? And so this is then what you can use to discern, you know, like, is this really a loss? You know, if I, you know, just don't want to be with these people anymore. You know, is it really worth it for me to constantly having to fight for me wanting to be me? All right. So what supports you, or I often call this conducive, what's conducive for me in my energy, is something that makes you expand, that allows you to be, that allows others to be as well, but that allows you to fully, you know, be one with yourself. Because this is where not only your connection with your heart and the connection with the present moment can occur. Because think of it, if you try to be someone you're not, or if you constantly see yourself through the eyes of others, and this is a theme here that is going through us right now, you know, like, how do we truly see ourselves? And if there's an incongruence there, then of course our manifestation abilities are not very effective. And so conduciveness, you know, slash expansiveness is something that helps your energy to unfold, and not to cave in, or having to defend, or having to fight, or having to resist. All right. So this is for energetically sensitives, probably the prime directive, to find these conditions, these people, these places, these jobs that are supportive, that are conducive for your energy. And there's no judgment in this, you know. This doesn't have anything to do with good or bad. Just because people don't understand you, or because they're afraid of you, doesn't mean that they're bad people, okay? It just means that they're on a different level of consciousness than you are, and that produces sort of an incompatibility in itself. All right, so don't judge yourself. That's of course the first you know, sort of place that you need to go in, by going into yourself, going into your center, and say, okay, you know, they just you know, can't see the world, or can't see me the way I truly am, or the world, how I truly see the world, and that's okay. So don't judge others either. That helps really to calm down this constant inner contradiction, and this inner conflict that we have. Also, for many of us, this inner negativity, critical inner voice, you know, that can come up with conditions that are not conducive for us. So it's really imperative all year here that we go through this correctional wave of energy that I mentioned in the beginning, with this awareness making of what is supportive for me, what is strengthening for me, what is conducive for me, what helps me to expand. But, and this is sort of the new element here that's coming in for this week, also in conjunction with seeing the whole, with seeing others, with heeding and respecting and honoring other people's needs And sometimes this also means to honor other people's consciousness level. All right, so when you can identify where you are at here in this whole sort of matrix, okay, when you can be centered and know where you are, then you can also interpolate the relation that you have to the whole, and that another person has to you, and that another person has to the whole. And that is then what basically informs you, about whether or not you guys actually can collaborate or can, work together in a conducive way, or something that produces a win situation. And if you come to the conclusion that this isn't the case, there is no need to really vilify or to degrade the other person. Oftentimes it's just a matter of timing. And we talked about timelines and temporal perception last time, and I talked about syntropy and how, when we are able to go into our heart, and when we're able to really center, in the present moment, then, a convergence starts to happen with our energies. And that is that we are being pulled into this highest potential or most advantageous outcome of a situation. And this then explains why we then suddenly, this can come very sudden, and this can be a bit shocking sometimes, but suddenly just don't resonate with people anymore. We just don't want to be with them anymore. But it doesn't mean that they're bad, or that they're mean or anything. It just means that we have become more aware of who we truly are, and that then sort of creates not only a resonance within us, but also affects our attractor field, the kind of people that we begin to attract into our lives. And the more aware we can become of this, the more active we become in this as well. Because if you're more clear about what kind of people, or what kind of relationships, or what kind of jobs, or what kind of homes, or what kind of society you resonate with the most, it really helps to weed out all the stuff that's basically just a waste of energy. But it doesn't mean that it's bad. For most people here, we all are at a different place. We all are sort of in a different timeline, if you will, as far as our own awakening of consciousness is concerned. So as an empath, it's very important that you don't take on the emotions that come from the other people, that you recognize them, you can be open for them, you can acknowledge them, but you don't have to absorb them, and that again here comes from this heart centering and being present. Thanks for commenting on this. Yes, I see you guys. Awesome. Somebody asked me here today, what is it actually, that energy work or energy healing that you do? What is that called? And I jokingly said it's not Reiki, but only really to eliminate, misconceptions. So the kind of energy work that we do at transCODES here is energy code work. And it's based on self-healing, which means that, even though we have highly trained energy healers and energy workers here at transCODES, our overall mission, our overall vision is to provide the knowledge, and with it, the direct experience of a person being able to feel this, to feel their own energies, to become able to contextualize them and to work them. All right. So, for instance, knowing the dynamics of your energies, knowing the mechanics, knowing what your energetic state is, and how to increase your vibration, in a very practical way, can be applied in many different areas. And so, energy work that we practice here at transCODES, or the way we teach this to people in workshops, webinars, and energy sessions, always also brings in an educational component, and explaining, what a person is experiencing. But the main part of energy work here is not to present us as healers and we're doing something mystical here in the background, or hidden doors, as somebody called it. No, everything is open. In fact, we report everything. We have a total open policy, and there's usually a group of facilitators, a group of energy workers facilitating the energy sessions that we do here. So there's also a lot of exchange and a lot of verification, validation amongst different kinds of energy workers. So what we do here is really teaching people how to use these senses that we all have, but energetically sensitives and empaths are a little closer to understanding that these things are real. All right, but the idea is really that we all have these energetic senses basically as our seventh sense, and that we don't speak the language yet. So we're providing the translation. We're providing, the lingo, and also take out some of the woo-woo stuff here just to make this more applicable for people. So areas where this can be applied, the kind of energy work, energy code work that we do here is, of course, in relationships, is, of course, on your own personal journey. We often call it self-healing only because when healing is accomplished from an energetic point of view, the vibration rises. And really all that differentiates me as an energy healer from you is that I can see these energies, I can measure them, and I can literally, show you, where your energy is at and what happened to it. And I'm teaching you this while I'm doing energy coaching with you or energy sessions. Yeah, so there's a lot of talking, but coming back to the practical applications, we also help people to apply this in business. So there's a lot of business and mentor coaching that we do, help people to match up business ideas, contracts, and so forth. In the crypto spiritual, I apply these energy work techniques and modalities to do integrity tests on certain investments. You can apply this for everyday decisions. What kind of sandwich should I eat? A cheese sandwich or a watercress sandwich? Just make that up. Just sort of accomplishing a higher level of abundance in your life, in regards to finances, in regards to love and health. So that's why I divide the viewpoints here into physical, emotional, mental, social, spiritual, and energetic aspects. I hope this answered the question. So physically, the energy centers, the physical energy centers affected or most active here in this coming week will be our seventh chakra, our crown chakra. This is coming in, since Monday, and also our sixth chakra, our third eye. So you can tell, there's something going on here that has to do with our vision, that has to do with our ability to connect with our higher consciousness. Also, our fourth chakra, our heart chakra, is now coming in throughout the weekend. And it brings in a new component, namely the component of needing to be fully present and needing to be fully connected with our feelings, with our emotions, but also with our intuition, because our heart is the part in us that can discern. So that's the part in us that can help us to interpret what it is that we are visioning, that we are sort of experiencing here on an energetic level. And also very strong here throughout the weekend, especially beginning of next week, is our second chakra, our sacral chakra. That's where most of our emotions get stirred up, and that's why I sort of brought up the aspect of not falling into fear, not overreacting, and yet at the same time also being able to connect with, the part in you that allows, embraces, and perceives, which is the feminine, part of your energies, and the part of you that is willing to do actions, to make decisions, to say, okay, then, I'm just not going to be with this person anymore, or all the way to maybe we should split up if it's a relationship, or maybe I should make some real, changes here, instead of just trying to cope with whatever, like say in my business or in my life, what's been bothering me. So the challenge is to not go into the past way and how you used to do it, because that's what got you here into this sort of incongruent place. And now you want to really use your intuition to get the info and then be present in your heart and then go into concentrated action. Then you won't need to feel afraid. Then you will feel like you have a bit more control, because those energies that are coming in will make us feel that we are not in control, okay, due to the surprising or the shocking element of that. So physically, how do these energy centers that I just listed, how do they play out? So usually when the 6th and especially when the 7th chakra is involved, the crown chakra, people will feel this electricity that I talked about, this vibrational pulsing heat, a lot of sort of unexplainable energetic sensation and dizziness, sometimes all the way to sleeplessness. Okay, so this would be something that I expect here for the next week. With the 2nd chakra and the pull back into the past, people who have joint issues, especially people who have issues with the hip, need to expect a little bit of a trigger here for this next week. Okay, the hip is energetically connected with emotions such as betrayal, such as not belonging, and it can link you right back into some of these core fears that you have, and so it can actually block you from moving forward. So here you have to be a bit more conscious and sort of like just remember conscious action. So what can I do right now, to get out of this physical state? Other things that can be affected here are everything that has to do with sensuality. Okay, feeling, tasting, smelling, all right, touching. There is an upgrade here that is happening through this correction. Okay, so don't get me wrong. This is not a negative thing. This is actually a very positive thing in the larger picture. But whenever our system, our energy system goes through this, sort of download of new and fresh energy, it needs a little bit of time to adjust, okay? And so there can be things, where you feel like, I've had this the last couple of days, all of a sudden I felt like blurry eye vision, from eye strain or something, or I feel my ears feel somehow congested, stuff like that. So be proactive here and do sensual stuff. Like maybe get a massage, and surround yourself with things that create beautiful smells. I like baking, I like having flowers around, just do this consciously. Maybe work with essential oils at this coming week. One other aspect that is not, of course, visible for most of you that comes in here physically is a genetic aspect. So whenever the 7th chakra is involved, and also here just, reading the overall energies in conjunction with some family karma that still needs to be processed. There are some genetic things. So people are discovering things, maybe that's part of the shocking revelation this next week, that there are maybe say diseases or something that run in your family. Don't go into panic just because one of your relatives contracted cancer or heart disease doesn't mean that you were doomed. Okay, so if you really want a little more info about this, then do one of those DNA tests. Just never allow your data to be used for marketing or social purposes. So avoid the social aspect of these DNA testing companies, and give yourselves sort of a little bit of an overview. As people who are aware of their own energies, we can change even our DNA, guys, okay? So this may sound like big woo-woo to you guys, but this is proven now. Quantum mechanics shows us that this is possible, and experiments with the plant-based experiments show that it is possible to influence even our genetic makeup through the power of our minds, through the power of our intention, through the power of our heart. This is the core of energy work. This is what we are teaching people here, okay? So don't go into panic. Be proactive. Maybe learn what it is that you can do, to change, your genetic makeup. Emotionally, I've already mentioned this, the second chakra, brings an emotionality, okay? And for most of us, it's, the biggest fears that we have is, of course, betrayal, is, this not belonging, or this feeling like kicked out, or feeling not validated. So you're going to have to work with this a little bit. If you know about yourself that you have a bit of an abandonment issue, then really just, accept this, acknowledge this and say, okay, I'll always have a little bit of an abandonment issue, and so certain reactions from other people, they will, they can trigger this in me, but that doesn't mean I have to allow this to dominate me or my behavior. I don't have to go into depression or into guilt or into regrets or feeling judged and doubting myself just because my abandonment issue was triggered. Be aware of it. Stay in your center, stay in the present, and acknowledge where your energy is at, and that then allows you to, and again, here's the conscious action, to engage in things that that can help to shift your energy at that moment, okay? For those of you who have addictive structure, be cautious here this next week, because addictive patterns, they always have something to do with coping. So when things get a little intense, that's usually when an addict feels, a stronger pull into, whatever sort of the coping way is. This could be anything from behaviors to substances, but really keep an eye on it. It's okay if you don't know yet how to get past your coping patterns, but at least become aware of it. Conscious. All right. Mentally, this whole sort of betrayal or revelation, truth thing that I talked about in the beginning, of course, can shatter our beliefs a bit. So prepare for, allowing yourselves to rethink, to have some of your mindset, some of your belief system to be tested, and embrace it, like the thing that we talked about here about friends, maybe the deeper we go within ourselves and the more we heal some of our aspects, it seems like the less friends we have, but this is actually not true. It's something based on our old beliefs, that maybe we're more popular if we have more friends, this may be the case. But if you actually look at it from your today's perspective, where it's more about truth and where it's more about conduciveness and support and honor and respect, losing, those people that, are degrading or not respectful towards you is not really a loss. So this is a shift of your mindset. That's a shift in your beliefs, and allow this to happen here. Don't go into this fear-based thinking, that comes from blind trust or from things that you are taking for granted. And once more, we'll see things like that, especially in regards to our governments. One of the examples here that I have, I don't know if you know this, I used to work as a nutritional counselor 25 years ago. And one of the big things, people back then, they looked at me like a conspiracy theorist, when I talked about MSGs and genetically modified foods and high of fructose corn syrup and so forth, and how, how this affects your nervous system and your metabolism and so forth. And nowadays, this is more mainstream available, but to trust in your government or whatever government agency is responsible for labeling or making foods look healthy, okay, you can't trust it because it's not really based on the paradigm. Our societies are not fully based on the paradigm of what is best for all. Okay, there's other agendas, and you all know this. It has nothing to do with conspiracy theory. This has something to do with accepting truth. Okay, so the truth is that in our food industry, which is non-integrous, it's not based on truth, that there's a lot of other goals with it, such as, of course, money making, but also, efficiency and so forth. There's a lot of other things, and sometimes perhaps even manipulation. We can't prove that yet, but there's a lot of indication to that. So to trust in your government to really have the best for you in mind is kind of naive. All right, because your government doesn't have that in mind. That is not your government's prime directive. Okay, it says it does, and in some areas, like creating infrastructure and so forth, it makes it look that way. But you can't, expect the system, to protect you, to take care of you, to keep you healthy. No, those are things that you have to do. You have to go into self-responsibility and be proactive with these things. Educate yourself, whether it's your physiology, whether it's your nutrition, whether it's your energy, and even psychology. You got to educate yourself so that you can make conscious decisions about what you are putting into your body, whom you are allowing to be around you, what kind of emotion you're allowing, what kind of energies you're allowing. So for me, the only difference between me and maybe the mainstream is that I'm including energetic aspects into the sort of daily exposure of things that I have, not just the nutritional aspects, not just the exercise of physiological aspects or mental aspects, but also the energetic aspects that are affecting me every day. Socially, I've mentioned it, family time, gathering time. It's a very social time here, especially over the weekend, and it's actually a good time for that. So allow all this to happen, even if you've had issues in the past, or if you don't like to go to functions or family gatherings or even parties or whatever. I suggest do it. Do it anyway, and if, you're bored out of your mind, then just sit there and observe your own energy. Okay, learn something about your own energy. It will help you to become more clear about yourself and the vision of yourself and how you relate. So a lot of these new energies that are coming in right now point into relation, okay, how we relate. And I think it's a really good way to start in your own center and see how you relate to others. And then you can observe other people's energies and how they relate to you. Spiritually, I've mentioned this, due to the 6th and 7th chakra activity, I'm expecting people to have real strong dreams, and also an influx of vision, also like a tendency of wanting to be inspired or feeling this inspiration, and perhaps not quite yet knowing how to manifest all this. This is okay, okay? What is more important for you is a clarity about your vision in life and your vision as far as what you see as your purpose. Okay, so what I just did when I talked about transcodes and the energy work that we do here, like a mission statement, that would be something that you could work on developing for yourself here in this week, to really become more clear about what you stand for, who you are, what your true values are, and what drives you. What drives you? What is the core, the source of your power? What makes you get up in the morning and, even if you got knocked down, to try over and over again? This is the core source of your power. Not what other people say, how much money you get for it, or, whether other people like this or not. Okay? The core source of your power is your vision, your understanding of yourself and who you truly are and what your core values are. And so energetically, this again here brings this masculine feminine component that I talked about. So if you are if familiar with energy work, you can work on, just consciously connecting with feminine energies, consciously connecting with masculine energies at the same time, and, kind of have them meet here in your center so that they can start working together synergetically. Okay. Yes, and I keep seeing you guys. I see your hearts. Thank you. Don't forget to smash the like button here too. Australia, welcome. Canada, it's wonderful to see you guys. So in order to get into this sort of synergetic place that, we will need here for this whole entire next month of June, we need to have this sort of stance with ourselves, and that's then what will allow you to maneuver, to navigate through things. It will allow you to pull through no matter what is happening, what the weather conditions are. It will allow you to, stand for yourself, and it will also put you into a place of higher levels of independence. But more so, and this is the important part here for those of you who are really interested in how to use energy work for manifestation, it increases, it expands your attractor field, and it increases your radiance. It increases your capacity, for pulling in the right people, the right opportunities, the right ideas, maybe also money into your life. So if you would like to know more about this, in particular, how to use energy work for abundance, we have a in-person workshop in Florida come up called Abundance for Empaths and Energy Healers, or Healers, Empaths and Healers. So if you would like to know more, we still have tickets left. Check out the website. It's right around the summer solstice with lots of practical application, showing you guys energy work techniques and having you experience them for yourself. Okay, so this is sort of the self-healing aspect here, of really understanding that self-responsibility is not necessarily a bad thing. It means that you know what your source of power is and how to use this. Okay, and there's no woo-woo and no mysticism and no esotericism involved in this. Okay, these are universal energies that we all have access to, but we do need to work on training this translator in us, the part in us that can mediate between our higher consciousness and our 3D mind, but also our just our 3D needs, our existence, the practicability. So it's very, very practical what we teach here. As an overall energy work technique for this coming week, I recommend you guys, for those of you who want to work on being more present in the now, to tap your thymus. Thymus tapping is something that you can do even if you are sitting in the middle, of a family gathering or whatever. This is a part of you here. It's also sometimes called sort of the higher heart chakra, that you can feel your thymus. Actually, some people can feel it. I can't, but some people can feel it. It's a gland, that has a lot to do with the flow of life force, and it allows you to tune into the truth of the present moment. And sometimes when you feel maybe a little confused, or when you feel like agitated, or like you're not really sure what to do, you can of course always do conscious breathing. So that's something that I recommend regardless. But you can also just calm yourself down, and sort of it's sorting your energies. This is what you do when you tap your thymus. And there's an extra video that I will send with this energy update that allows you to, get a little more info about it. Okay, guys, I would like to close with this here. If you would like to test energy sessions, we have our free True Self, Connecting with Your True Self energy session that we do once a month coming up next week. We have an emotional integration session coming up tomorrow. And for those of you who are interested in how to apply all this and the aspects that are involved in mentoring, children, or parenting children, especially empath children, we have a very, very cool live webinar workshop coming up on Saturday from 8 till 10 p.m. US Denver time. Tickets are very cheap, so please check this out on transcodes.com. I need to get ready now for the crypto spiritual energy update, where I contextualize all of this that we talked about here into the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market, and how this is reflected in the market sentiment. So if you have the time, come back in 10 minutes and watch me talk about the same things, but now apply to a whole different area of life, if you will. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something. And yes, I hope to see you next week.